Order, would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Roll call, please, Mrs. Meltzer.
Trustee Matuzak?
Here.
Trustee Keys?
Here.
Trustee Patton?
Here.
Supervisor Cannon?
Here.
Trustee Kress?
Here.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Here.
Clerk Meltzer here.
Thank you. If you have anything you'd like to say at the end of the meeting, we have public comment cards at the front. Please fill one out, and we'll hear what you have to say at the end of the meeting. Otherwise, as items come before us, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, I know I'm
With that, we'll take
putting these things on.
the approval of the agenda.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. The first item is the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved?
Support.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On item number 11, the reconsideration of the chipping service
Wait.
discontinuation.
We've already approved the agenda.
For the minutes for the last meeting.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
the minutes for last meeting.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. In the minutes of last meeting, item number 11, the reconsideration for chipping, the dates there don't add up to 6 months. It's May through the end of October would be 6 months. And I just want to make that clear.
Thank you.
Do you want those remedied for the minutes then?
Yes,
Or is it-
please.
I mean, but it actually states the dates, the months, correct?
Yes, but it's not, it doesn't,
It just
my
doesn't say
motion was
6
for 6-month chipper service, and the dates are only 5 months
Oh,
through the end of September.
October,
It
that's
should be
6 months.
April or it should be
There's
November.
May, June,
April
July,
through
August,
October.
September, October.
No,
October.
it's May, June, June, July, July, August, August, September, September, October. That's 5.
May, June, July, August, September, October. That's 6 months. All of May,
All
all
of
of June.
All of October, yeah. It
Yeah,
doesn't end in September, it ends in October.
okay. Does
Okay.
it say it ends in September?
Yeah, yeah.
So, if I may, so, I want to clarify, the chipping service, the way it's been operating, has been a backlog of like 4 to 8 weeks. So, are they putting the dates down as the last date where you can put it out? And then, so if you want them working till October, it's actually going to be working till November
Not
into
if there's-
December.
Not if there's a cutoff date. If
Okay.
the pickup is by October 31st, and that's the,
So you want the cutoff date to put it out as October 31st?
for pickup.
Okay, for pickup, meaning it has to be out by
Yep.
September 30th, but then they will operate well into October. Is that
No.
correct?
We don't get to
I don't mean
rehash
to
this
interrupt, but-
again. This is,
I'm just saying it's incorrect. It's 5 months, it
Right.
should be 6.
Mr. Cannon, may I comment?
Yes.
Thank you. Right now, we're talking about just the minutes in terms of what was done at the meeting. So anything that we do here is simply to correct, so that it's accurate what transpired previously.
And my
If
motion
further
was for 6
clarification is needed beyond that, then I think it should not be done on the basis of the minutes. It should be through a later agenda item.
So, Mr. Cannon, then would you entertain a motion that we remove approval of the minutes from the consent agenda so that they can be reconciled with the board's understanding?
or postpone them? You want to postpone or
Just remove approval.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out the error that it's not, the way it's written, it's 5 months, and my motion was for 6.
Well, so the motion on the floor currently is that approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Correct.
If we want to separate that, then we can vote on the consent agenda and then vote to postpone the minutes.
It's not necessary. I'm just showing out that there's a discrepancy. We don't have to change anything, hold anything. I just want to bring it to your attention and the board's attention that it's, the way it's written is incorrect.
Well,
But those are the minutes, so we have to, if that's incorrect, it has to be, we have to address it
Yeah.
now.
Okay?
Because once it's done.
My
yeah.
motion was for 6 months of chipping, and the totality of it is 5 rather than 6 in the minutes,
Okay,
which is incorrect.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item A and postpone
Okay.
those minutes.
Are you doing
to
that
the-
in one motion?
Hold
Can I-
on for a
can I do
second.
it?
You just need to separate.
Just parliamentary wise, let's clean a few things up. Right now, we already have a pending motion in support.
we do.
Are we going to withdraw that and redo a motion, or are we going to?
Yes, I'm
Mr.
withdrawing
Kress
my
is
motion.
indicating
To
he's,
amend.
Yeah.
he indicated 6 months. That's what he wants. I think that's what we all understand.
Yeah, we
And
voted
I think that's what's
unanimously.
in there.
It was in the paper that way.
Yeah. So I think that everything that Mr. Kress wants is included and that we can vote on the consent agenda as is.
Mr. Kress is asserting that it's incorrect as presented in the minutes.
I think what he's saying, if I can paraphrase, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that for 5 months, we're going to do everything, and then at the end of 5 months, we're going to go back around one last time for the last month, which is 6 months.
Well,
That's my understanding from Mary Hine
Okay, all right.
and Mary Bednar.
So it's presented correctly then?
I believe it's presented correctly because it will be 6 months as he requested, as we voted on, all of us.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so the motion and the second maintain?
So,
So roll call?
Roll call?
Clerk Melzer, yes. Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 2, approval of the Hamlin Pub in Clinton Township.
Dear board members, applicant Hamlin Pub Clinton Township LLC, located at 42305-42319 Garfield Road, Clinton Township, Michigan 48038, has successfully fulfilled the requirements for the building department and fire department, as well as the police background check and payment of the application fees necessary to transfer the requested Class C and STM liquor licenses, dance and entertainment, and outdoor sales permits. Based on this fulfillment of requirements, Hamlin Pub of Clinton Township LLC requests approval from this honorable board. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Kim Meltzer, Clinton Township Clerk. And I do want to let you know this has been approved by the state.
Thank you. Comments or questions of the board?
I make a motion for approval.
Support.
Are the petitioners here? Do they want an opportunity to step forward and talk about their plans?
Good evening. I'm Kelly Allen. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner tonight. I'm their attorney. I'm sure you're familiar with Hamlin Pubs. This will be their 9th establishment in Michigan, and it will be similar to their others. They took 2 spaces of this prior space that was Wise Guys, I think. And they had some problems
Oh,
over there.
we heard you were coming over there.
Yeah, so that's where we're going. We're going to be the Wise Guys. And I'm here on their behalf. As Ms. Meltzer said, we've complied with everything as far as the township is concerned, as well as the state of Michigan. Really looking forward to opening here.
Good. Thank you for coming to Clinton Township.
Yep.
Good.
That's a beautiful building, too. I like their
And
remodel.
I can't tell you how many questions I get. What's going on with that building? How come it's taken so long? And there's a whole backstory to that, but
There's a long
it's good to
story
see.
to that.
It's good to see that
It
there
is.
is some progress on that building, and we appreciate the investment.
Thank you. Comments? Roll call?
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 3, request approval to assign GFL environmental contract to Priority Waste.
Would you like me to read the letter, or is this going to be, you want me to?
I think, Jack, I think the letter than you.
Sure.
Dear valued customer, we are writing to you in connection with your residential collection services contract with GFL Environmental USA, Inc., GFL, the agreement. We are excited to announce that GFL has agreed to sell the assets used in its Southeast Michigan residential solid waste collection business to Priority Waste LLC. In connection with and conditioned upon closing of the transaction, it is contemplated that Priority will acquire the agreement by way of an assignment of the agreement by GFL to Priority effective at the closing of the transaction. We anticipate that the closing of the transaction and the agreement transfer will occur on June 30th, 2024, assuming all conditions to closing are satisfied or waived. We are certain that Priority will continue to meet the high service standards you have come to expect from dealing with GFL, and we and Priority are coordinating the transition of the business to ensure there is no disruption to service. GFL will continue to perform its obligations under the agreement until the closing of the transaction. Please continue to remit payment to GFL until you are instructed otherwise. We would ask that you please return a countersigned copy of this letter by email at your earliest convenience. By signing this letter, your consent to the agreement transfer, waive any notice period or any other requirements in the agreement with respect to the agreement transfer, and agree that notwithstanding the closing of the transaction, the agreement will survive and continue in full force and effect without any further action by you or GFL. Your consent will be effective as of the date of closing of the transaction. Please reach out to one of us personally with any questions you may have. On behalf of all of us at GFL, thank you for your business. Very truly yours, Rick Vanan, Don Barretta, and Sam Caramagno. Like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think all of us have had people say, what is the most important thing this board does? What is the most important thing this township does to serve our residents? And we would all say police and fire, of course, water and sewer. And then when things don't go right, like chipping or rubbish pickup, what becomes the most important topic of discussion tonight is rubbish pickup, because it hasn't been going as it should. Through the years, GFL's done a great job in Clinton Township, just a great job. The last several weeks, it's been very poor. I think all of us on the board know that. I think all of our staff knows that. There's a lot of reasons for it, and we'll try to sort part of that out tonight. But we have to decide tonight if we're going to shift this contract from GFL to a new company, who, by the way, has bought a building, the old John Carlo building here in Clinton Township. So they pay taxes here in the township. They're a hometown company now. But let's figure out what it is we need from them and what they need from us. Mr. Dolan, I'd like you to start, please.
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. We presently have a refuse yard waste collection contract that was executed back on November 17th of 2010 between what was then Rizzo Services. Subsequent to that being executed, 2 additional extensions were executed, and we're now on what's the second extension. That second extension that was executed occurred back on April 1st, 2016. So this is a rather lengthy document. It's very comprehensive. It details out a lot of services. And of course, the residents all who receive rubbish pickup, recycling, and composting personally experience and are aware of those services. Within the context of these agreements, collectively, all 3 of them, the contract and 2 extensions, which incorporate the earlier extension and the contract, the terms that are significant for this decision are set out. The first term that's set out occurs in paragraph 20 of our initial contract. That deals with assignment. And it's short, so I'll read it in its entirety. It says, "This contract shall not be assigned or subcontracted by the contractor without the prior written consent of the township, period. For purposes of this contract, a transfer of more than 10% of the stock of the corporation or interest in the limited liability company or partnership, or the sale or transfer of more than 50% of the assets of the contractor to any party without the prior written consent of the township shall be prohibited." So we all know from the letter that just was read that all of the assets of what was Green for Life, which was the successor in interest to Rizzo Services, are going over to Priority. So that triggers this assignment provision. So they need our written consent in order to go ahead and proceed and commence service as the new contractor under the terms of our contract. Also, we have in our extension a provision that's important to the consideration tonight, and that's paragraph 11 of the 2016 second extension. That says, and I'll read it because it's short, after December 31st, 2018, the township shall have the right to cancel the remainder of the contract, including all extensions, without cause upon providing at least 120 days written notice to the contractor. For everyone's edification, we're into the second extension, and that second extension goes until March 31st of 2026. So we have about a year and 9 months left on that contract. Other information that I think is important for the discussion tonight is Mr. O'Leary worked tirelessly trying to discuss with the Priority Waste, who was very cooperative in this regard, exactly what services they would be furnishing to reassure that we would have all the services that presently occur remain intact and continue on. And in fact, they did indicate that that would be the case. The services that exist now, pretty much in the manner they exist, are going to continue. There may be some changes with regard to the hours of a collection during the actual collection day, but other than that, other specialized services such as our service for the disabled or elderly, of which we have about 100 customers, that's going to continue, as well as the other services that are taking place now. So that's where we stand. So what will happen, for example, at this point in time, if we agree? If we agree, we continue onward. And Priority substitutes in for Green for Life. The services that they're obligated to perform continue. What will happen if we don't agree? That's where the problem occurs, because it appears to us after some research that Priority Waste is really the only contractor that's available at the present time to fulfill the obligations that are under the contract. The problem that has occurred is Priority acquired all of the residential pickup services, not only in Clinton Township, but throughout all of Macomb County, where Green for Life had contracts, and in Oakland County as well, where Green for Life had contracts, and even beyond those borders. So we're in a situation where if we don't accept the assignment, there's a high likelihood that come July 1st, we'll be scrambling to find someone to try to pick up our refuse and try to fulfill the terms and conditions with Green for Life. Now, is that fair or is that right? Absolutely not. But our contract is with Green for Life. So to the extent that the waste didn't get picked up, we'd be looking to them to try to perform, and we'd also be looking to them for any damages that we have. So we do have a difficult problem because Green for Life has already sold their assets to Priority. The trucks are now Priority trucks. The personnel that used to work for Green for Life are either laid off or have gone over to Priority Waste.
The majority.
The majority, correct. Not all of them, but the majority. So with that difficult situation, it's my recommendation that we hold our nose, so to speak, and accept the assignment and try to move on in a positive way, and hopefully services will improve. Some of the difficulties that are occurring now are no doubt because of this transformation that's now happening with the Green for Life equipment going over to Priority and so on. We do have, as I indicated and read earlier, a provision where upon 120 days notice, we can move on to another contractor. And they have to honor that. That's a term of the contract that will continue until that March 31st, 2026 date. So if in fact problems occur as we move along, we can utilize that provision in the contract to seek out another vendor if that would be appropriate. So we do have some protection in that regard. But with that, I'll answer any questions anyone has. And also for the sake of the public, all of our board has been deeply involved and concerned on this matter and has spent a lot of time looking into this as it's unfurled. And this has all really occurred in about the last 30 days where we got notice.
Less than that. Mrs. Meltzer?
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. So my concern about this whole thing is a continuation of good service. I spent one of our holidays that we had on the phone with very upset residents when their garbage pickup didn't take place, and they had to wait almost a week for their garbage to be picked up, and they were very concerned. And of course, it was during the time where it's been the hottest it's been all summer, in the 90s, and so there was a big concern about that. So from my perspective, that's the number one important factor, is that we maintain that there's no collateral damage to our residents because of this contract, that they still receive the services that they have always relied upon with GFL. But the other thing, and this is a question for our attorney, is it just seems to me that a contract is worthless if we can't enforce it. And if it's nothing that, if it's the process that this whole takeover went through was
Sale.
very, pardon me?
It's a sale, not a takeover.
Yeah, okay, a sale. But it was very concerning to me because we really didn't get any notice that this was even in the works. And so here we have a contract that we are directly affected by, and we represent our community. And so those are the things that I would like to be taken into consideration for, with this new company, Priority. And reciprocally, we will do the same if we are, thinking of leaving somewhere. We have a contract that would give you at least 120 days notice. That wasn't given. We were not given that consideration in this transition, which is, I think, not very business friendly. And again, costs will be maintained at the same rates that they are now through March of 2026, which I think is a good thing. But I think that we might, is there an additional consideration that Priority would take to extend it even maybe another year out because of, the fact that we are the largest township in the state and we are a large contract with you? Would Priority come up to the podium and be willing to negotiate?
We're going to the board first.
Well, okay, eventually then, and ask for at least an extension further out than what we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You will get your opportunity.
Julie? I was extremely upset that I learned about this through a Facebook post. We weren't notified, we didn't know, and the Facebook post was actually a letter to the employees saying this is going to happen. It wasn't even a notification to us. That's ridiculous. Now, we live in a free enterprise society. I can't stop one company from buying another company. But I do think in the case where the companies are engaged in public service, critical public services, there should have been notice. I can tell you that I have spent 2 weeks dealing with no pickup, no recycling, trucks spewing stuff on streets. It's ridiculous. And I am loath to extend until we have some guarantees that things are going to be better, and they're going to be better quickly, because this is really upsetting to people. The recycling is sitting outside in this hot weather, rotting away. Their garbage is sitting outside. Our streets are getting messed up with stuff coming off trucks. I actually followed one going, oh my God, what is that? This is not a satisfactory situation in any sense of the word. And again, I understand I don't have the power to stop one company from buying another, but this is a critical public service, and companies engaged in public services, I think, have a higher responsibility. And I'm very disappointed and very upset, and I'm not clear what they can give us that's going to make up for this.
Thank you. I agree. Up until a month ago, I thought GFL did a great job for Clinton Township. The lack of communication and some of the things you're talking about have added to my anguish, as well as all of ours, because every single one of us have received phone calls from residents. My garbage is sitting out front right now. Today's our garbage pickup. At 5:15, it was still out. So I don't know if it's going to be picked up today. It was picked up late last week. And I'm not unique, and I'm not special. Everybody is in the same boat. That's why I said, which service is the most important to a community? It's the one you're not getting at that time. And it is because it was so hot. I
Right.
think that added to the problem. Mr. Dolan laid the groundwork. I did meet about a week ago over at Priority, the old John Carlo building on Hall Road. They are now property owners in Clinton Township, and we're proud of that. I think they will do a great job for the community. I saw their setup. I saw the way they're going to service our residents. They're going to service us in a much better way than GFL did. I can guarantee that because I saw it. I saw them servicing Sterling Heights online. So I'm excited about that part of it. What I'm not excited about is we need some help to make this change. And what I'm going to ask when you come forward is that you give us an additional year at the current rates, and I'm going to ask that you participate. Actually, I'm going to ask that you do some of the advertising that was done in the Macomb Daily for Sterling Heights when you took over their account. A lot of us were looking at that because we thought if you could do Sterling Heights, you can do Clinton Township. That was a big account for you. That was a major coup for you. Getting Clinton Township on board is going to be a major coup. Now, if we say no tonight, what happens? What happens is we may or may not get garbage pickup because GFL is gone. Who's going to pick up our garbage? That is a problem. On the other hand, GFL has a contract with us that we haven't given up yet. So we can say, GFL, you're responsible. Find some trucks, which they can't. Find some people, which they can't, and go pick up the garbage around our community, which they won't because they can't. So that's for us to decide tonight. It is a very difficult decision. I guess I'm angry because it took so long for GFL, not the new company, to let us know. It was their responsibility to let us know that this change was occurring and that we could prepare for it and ask questions. What's going to happen? So we haven't had that opportunity. We're still at the board level. Anyone else who wishes to speak?
I have questions
Mr.
for Priority.
Of
so
course. Well, then let them
I'd like to
speak.
hear from them first.
Of course. That's fine.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes, ma'am.
what would be the point of the advertising in the Daily?
To let our residents know they can use their same bins, that the same days are going to be used for collection. We're not going to say they're going to be there at 8:15 a.m. or 2:15 p.m., but let them know things are going to be somewhat the same. There's going to be no additional charges because we have a contract that goes until 2026. I would like to see it extended. I would like to see them offer an extension to another year so we can decide whether or not we want to have them as our company. In another couple of years, there may be other companies that can bid against this. Right now, there is no other company in this area that can bid successfully against the new company that we're getting, Priority. And by the way, I think Priority in Sterling Heights, I'm hearing good things about them from the mayor, from the city manager. So I'm excited about them, and I'm excited about what I saw over on Hall Road.
Thank you.
Mr. Keys?
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. I'm not going to belabor the conversation. I certainly don't blame Priority for the lack of communication. I agree with Mr. Cannon that the current vendor should have been communicating to us, but I absolutely believe what Trustee Matuzak said, that as a board, we can't control free enterprise, and until we want to bring garbage hauling in-house, we really don't have a say in the matter. Truthfully, even with the options tonight, I don't feel they're options. I think we need to move forward and be able to continue on with service that residents can count on. What I do, though, want to make sure we remind the board is that for 8 years, I've been hearing that there's no competition for trash hauling, for engineering, for auditing services, for legal services. There's always this idea that there's no competition. But as long as governments are handing out 5 and 10-year contracts in no bid situations, there never will be competition. What we'll see is smaller companies continue to eat themselves and become bigger companies and sell one another, which we've already done twice since I've been on the board here. And so I think that it's important to always go out for a competitively bid process. Certainly in this situation, I think extending the contract that was already agreed to is the smart decision and ensures that we're going to continue the services that residents expect. So I will be in favor of that. But when it comes to extending the contract or future contracts, I think it's important to send the message to all of the trash hauling companies across the area that you have an option to bid on Clinton Township and Macomb County services. I think, Mr. Cannon, you said it best. It was a coup when you took over at Sterling Heights. It would be a coup if you took over here in Clinton Township. It should not be a coup when businesses step up and offer to do business in a competitively bid market. So I just want to remind board members of that and appreciate the comments already made. Thank you, Mr. Cannon.
Further comments to the board? Sir, you have the floor. Please give us your name and address, please.
Good evening, Dan Vinay with Priority. We're at 45,000 River Ridge Drive in Clinton Township. Thank you for the time. I look forward to answering some of your questions. I'll just kick off as I know that this has been a very quick process. We've been meeting with many of you, talking with many of you. I know we have a meeting already scheduled, barring the result of this meeting, I'm sure, but to meet with Mary and DPW and Dan O'Leary to go over transitional queues and common questions, and I would like to clear up anything that you may have. Common things that are going out in the public are we're going to come in and change things. We're going to do things differently. We're going to be making sure it's only carded service because of what Sterling Heights transitioned to, which is inaccurate and misinformation in the public. That was part of their bid process. That was what the city did request all bidders to respond with. So for Clinton Township, the 4 corners of the contract as it states until March 31st of 2026. The way that the service is provided today is the way that will be provided with us on July 1st. So that will remain consistent. All of the terms and conditions in there will remain consistent. So I want to first just say that because it's a common question I'm sure that you're getting. For us, we do things a little bit differently, but at the core, we pride ourselves on a 99.87% success rate on picking up materials from over 1 million touches a week. So 0.13% of the million touches we have a call in. Now, it's always a misstop. It could be a late set out where we use our camera systems and technology to educate that resident of when we were there, why we got there at that time, why did it maybe change, because our service is very manual. Residents are required to get their material out at 7 a.m. We start at 7 a.m. If we get into the area earlier, don't expect the collection time. It's a collection day. So those ideas and the technology that we have allows us to provide that education at the point of the call, which I'm proud to say most of our calls now are a 20-second hold time with a 1:30 resolution time. So again, residents are getting in touch with us and getting off of the phone to their daily lives in a quick fashion. So I'll keep it short as I know many of you have questions.
Everything you said I agree with. I saw your setup. It's beautiful. It's far better than what we have now. Everyone here will be much happier with the service because of the way they have it set up with their computers. However, we were notified at the last second, and 2026 sounds like a long ways down the road, but it's not. I think, and I'll be gone from this board, but others will be here, and they've got to decide, like Mr. Key said, are we going to bid it out? Give yourself another year to show us how good you are, is all I'm asking. An extra year, and help us promote the fact that you're good and have done well in Sterling Heights. Show off. You're showing off. Tonight you're sponsoring the firework transportation. Mm-hmm. You sponsored the Red Wings. You put your name on their logo. Mm-hmm. You're doing a great job of promoting yourself. Promote yourself here in Clinton Township. I mean, I'm really pleased that you're here in Clinton Township at the Carlo Building. It's a perfect spot for you. Perfect spot for a good company. You're a good company. Give us that extra year.
I appreciate the acknowledgements and the praise. We look forward to a smooth transition. As it states today, this contract is not ours. It is GFL's that we'd have to assign, so it's not, in our legal opinion, eligible to be negotiated. We'd like to get through this assignment and come to the table as a team, collaborate. We know it's the 11th hour tonight. We know that there's a tough decision that you have to make. Let's not make a rushed one. Let's go through the nuts and bolts of the contract together at that point. So tonight, I do not have authorization to extend it another year beyond the 2026 period. But like I said, we would more than willing to, I'm saying this publicly, come together, sit down at the table and negotiate.
I'm sorry, I missed the part you said, you do have authorization or you do not?
I do not have authorization to
So
extend.
I'm disappointed. That's the first time I've been disappointed in your company, because I think you're doing this board and this community a disservice. But you've got all the cards. There's no other company that can do it. Mr. Gilliam?
Mr. Vinay, thank you for being here. I appreciate you representing your company tonight, Clinton Township Company. We're glad to have you here, seeing that you're the only waste hauler kind of left standing. So when this discussion commenced of taking over the residential services for GFL, did you approach them or did they approach you?
The details of the transaction I'm not privy to. That happened at the highest level are both of our CEOs. So I don't know who came to who and when it exactly occurred. I was notified when everybody else was.
Okay. Do you know when those conversations actually started?
I do not.
Okay. When did you learn of it?
The day before it came announced to the public.
When it was announced to the public on
Yes.
Facebook from the employee post, or when
That I didn't believe. A lot of rumor mills and fake things go online. It was the formal announcement from our CEO.
And what date was that?
June 3rd or so.
June 3rd. Okay. All right. You've obviously had time to review our current contract. Is that
Correct,
correct?
yes.
Okay. How would you characterize the rates that Clinton Township is receiving versus the rates in other communities that you've either signed up or you're now picking up as part of this GFL contract?
You have a very competitive rate, just to say it blandly. I mean, you're in the market, maybe a little bit under some, but a little bit more than others. It just depends on the description of the service and who has a responsibility of disposal, who has a responsibility for cart maintenance and management. So there's a lot of variables that come into play. Sterling Heights is a cart-only service, so they have a better price than others that are a cart plus or a manual service.
When you say cart plus, that means, okay, so someone's got more trash than goes in the big
Correct, yeah, you
bin,
can have a
so
bag
they can
outside.
put it out and they're gonna pick it up.
Correct, yes.
Okay, Sterling Heights' contract says you'll just pick up the carts, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that was a provision of their contract that doesn't carry on to us because our contract still
No,
is
that's
in
what I said.
existence.
Our contract stays
Yes.
the way it
Okay.
is.
Yep.
All right, so let me ask you, because I think there's a bunch of sort of provisions in the contract that I just want to make clear. And part of the reason why I'm asking is because we're nervous about this, obviously, but so is the public. They're, it's one of the most, as Mr. Cannon announced, it's one of the most important things that we do. Police services, fire services, water, sewer, and picking up trash. That's what local governments do, right? And we contract with you to do that.
Yep.
So we currently have bins now that were provided to all the residents for trash collection. Are people going to have to get another bin?
No, whatever the residents are using currently can remain in service. We have we're, again, part of this assignment or the acquisition of the residential routes from GFL is the equipment. The equipment that's in Clinton Township today will remain in Clinton Township. We have done a full fleet audit, so any trucks that deem repair, trucks that need to be replaced will be done so in a timely fashion,
Well,
making sure.
You're almost anticipating my question,
Yeah.
but I appreciate that. But let me stay on the carts just for a minute here, and that is, we provided the recycling carts out of surplus funds in the sanitation fund for recycling to those residents. But some people move and they take them with them. New residents then need a new cart. Are those carts going to be provided?
The same way that it's done today is it'll be done in our contract. And I'll say Don Beretta of GFL is coming over with us for the first period, at least he says 90 days, I hope 25 years, because his wealth of knowledge and history and experience in your township and others, it can't go measured. So he will have a lot of those details, and I'm sure that Thursday meeting, should it happen after this meeting, a lot of those details will be determined. How is it, what is it, and what's going forward. But if it is in place today, it will remain in place on July 1st.
Okay. So there's a dedicated service person for the township, because people don't just call the waste company, they also call the township. And so the Department of Public Services then, winds up calling you guys. Will there be a dedicated service person?
Of course, yes.
For our staff as well as the public? And you already touched on that. You have a great customer service satisfaction rating.
Yes.
Of course, those things are always done by the company that's actually publishing them. So,
But no, that's not a customer satisfaction rating. That's our success rate on the street.
Okay.
So when we have 1 million touches a week, we're successful in picking up the material 99.97 or 87% of the time.
okay.
So that's, again, I'm just saying the variable of percent that we're missing is 0.13. So we're getting 1 million of the material out, just 0.13 is the miss.
So one of the things that I always liked about the GFL level of service is that they had some supervisors out in the community in pickup trucks, not necessarily picking up the waste, but making sure that everything was going okay. There have been some reports, as Ms. Matuzik alluded to, about the trucks leaking hydraulic fluid. One of the residents that's actually here tonight brought that to my attention too. And so he sent me pictures of the stains on the roadways. Will you have those supervisors out in the field?
We do a combination platter of sorts. We do have electronic management or route management, because a person in a truck following a truck to make sure that truck does its work is an antiquated process. Technology is something that we embrace, as Mr. Cannon had alluded to. Our PIT, our Priority Integrated Technology Center, allows us to digitally watch all of our trucks that are out on the road through our camera systems and GPS, track where they're going, pull recorded video, but we also use that in a combination of in-field supervision as needed. So we have lead drivers, territory managers, and others that can help out those cases, with our safety director, who's a former firefighter in St. Croix Shores and a fire marshal in St. Croix Shores, with his team to go through to clean up any hydraulic spills and issues of that sort.
Okay, so you're substituting this technology sort of model with the supervisors being out in the field.
Correct, yeah, we use them both.
And forgive me for asking these, somewhat detailed questions, but I haven't had time to have these discussions, because this happens so quickly.
Yeah.
How would you characterize the fleet of vehicles that you're picking up from GFL?
They all vary. I mean, it's 500 vehicles that we are taking over. There are vehicles that were back from an acquisition that happened in 2016 that they still have. Those ones will probably be the most needing of repair or replacement. Then there's a very healthy percentage that are newer and in good shape. So our process to transition is get the labeling on the stickers first and foremost, get our technology and cameras put onto those trucks first and foremost, go through a rebranding and painting of the trucks that are in good condition and replacing the ones that are not as quickly as possible, because we know in 30 days anything that happens is our fault anyway, regardless of where we got it from.
So when I had residents call me, in fact, my trash wasn't picked up last week until a day late, but look, stuff happens, right? But the explanation that I got for that was that they didn't have enough staff, largely probably because of the transition. I think people are moving over to your company or something to that effect, but that they didn't have trucks. Trucks were breaking down because of the heat.
I mean, I can't speak to what GFL did. I do know we have not onboarded any of the GFL employees that are coming over with this acquisition. They are supposed to stay with GFL until the acquisition, in which they come on board with us, which is over that weekend. So the rumors that we are taking their people were affecting your service is actually 100% not accurate. Their people are not on board with Priority yet.
Okay. So in the communities that you currently service, what has been the experience with trucks breaking down and being, having to, tell people, hey, it's going to be a day late, it's going to happen tomorrow, or?
With priority service,
Yep.
we've never had a delay issue.
Okay.
We've had issues where we can't finish the street because there's maybe construction that obstructs the view, which we work with the city leadership to determine that. But, outside of the time where there was some compost in Dearborn Heights and Westland through the flooding and all of that, that was a case. But for the percentage of our services, we've run on time for our community.
One of the provisions of our contract is that we have a number of senior citizens that have trouble getting the carts down to the drive or down to the street, and the driver jumps out and actually goes up the drive and goes and gets those carts for those folks. That will continue.
Yeah, we have that list. Yep.
Okay, all right, so you have the list.
Correct.
All right, okay. And you're able to meet the terms.
Correct.
Okay. The compost carts. So compost carts are an option, right? People have the option of buying their own cans, or they can call GFL, $85, get a big cart, and then pour all their compost in there. That option will be available as well.
Correct. Yep. All of the carts that you currently have, trash, recycling, or compost, however they're defined or set up in the service, will be continued with us.
So I don't think that was part of the contract originally, because that's a relatively new development.
It was.
So,
I think
because it's
originally-
not part of the contract. Do you see where I'm going here? It's like, okay, yeah, it wasn't part of the contract. You're going to honor the contract, but then there's some other provisions that we've added on.
I was pretty sure it was in the second amendment that was written into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are.
I don't think with the compost. I think that was
Okay.
with the second extension. It was the
Yeah,
recycling
and
versus the compost.
well, of course, like I said, the Thursday meeting that we dive through with Mary and Dan will go through a lot of the intricate details that like every contract is white and black. It has its letters and its four corners. There's a lot of gray in the service that gets worked out throughout the term. So what is being worked out, we will work out continually with them. If it isn't defined, we'll find a way to get it to a way that the residents are not affected.
Okay. So, this advertising, Sterling Heights, there wasn't a day that went by in the past, 3 weeks that I haven't seen an ad. I don't think Sterling Heights had ever had curbside recycling.
It was an opt-in program. They
Yeah, it
had
was
it, the resident had to pay separately for it if they wanted to use it.
We've
Yeah.
had curbside recycling throughout our community to every resident that we currently service. But there was an ad in the paper every day from Sterling Heights. You guys are putting your logo on the Red Wings. I think what Mr. Cannon was alluding to is helping our residents understand the transition and advertising that there's a new provider. Is that something that you're amenable to?
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk through how and the best practices to get information out to the residents is the most cost effective and the ones that'll get them to the most hands. The advertisements for Sterling Heights, though, were run through their communications team. They ran it, they paid for it. There was a stipend that they got from a grant from Eagle and the Recycling Partnership, because they got the grant for the carts specifically. So we had some background assistance to it, but most of it was done by Marissa Russo, and I'm forgetting her name, I think it was Maria, that ran their advertisements with Macomb Daily, the literature that was presented and mailed out, that was mostly through their office. But I'm
So
just saying.
somewhat speculative on my part, but because Sterling Heights never had
Yeah, there was a lot to
curbside
it.
recycling, the DEQ, DNR
Yeah.
at the state level provided them a grant to help them advertise that this is a new service for them.
Correct,
Yeah, we've
yeah.
been offering that forever to our residents, and our residents have been paying for it. I wonder what grants are available to us.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we would love to connect you with the Recycling Partnership if there's an opportunity for sure
Okay.
to maybe get you some, again, it's up to you and them to work out that, but we've worked with them for the city of Flint and the city of St. Clair Shores now for carded related service.
Okay.
Mr. Gilliam, are you?
Yeah,
You're done?
I'm going to surrender the floor, but I do appreciate the answers to the questions, and
Mrs. Patton?
again, we haven't had the
You have the
opportunity
floor.
to review this and have these conversations, so we're having to do it at a board meeting.
Yes.
Which is not ideal.
Yes, understand.
Okay.
Well, it's not his fault.
Right,
There is
I
some
understand.
fault, there's a lot of fault, but not his.
Actually, it is ideal. The
Tammy?
public can hear.
Yes, so
Well-
thank you for being here, for one. And I understand that people are uneasy and some people are even upset about how this went. But we can't lay blame on you guys. It was the other company that left. It was the other company that did this. So some of those comments seem to be like we're punishing you guys, and I don't feel like we should be doing that. So you guys are coming in, you're taking over this, and I understand. I've watched GFL for the last few years. I've brought up issues for the last few years. I've sat with whoever the director is, Mary, whomever, and even Mr. Cannon was in some of those because there had been ongoing issues. And all I heard
I don't recall being in any meeting with you
with
regarding
Mary
rubbish.
when she,
I do
okay.
not.
So anyway, GFL had done, they were consistent about doing several things that I brought up, and everybody, oh no, GFL is awesome. And I'm like, but here's the video. So this has been ongoing, and especially when Canada bought them out, and then that was even worse, and then of course all this other stuff. So the thing I appreciate is I was able to stop at you guys' office. I knocked, somebody or came in, and not knocked, but came in, and they were able to provide me a tour. You guys had the cameras on the wall. You were able to show me like where the trucks were. The dispatch, you had the own dispatch here, so if somebody needed to make a call or that driver needed to make a call or had an issue, right away somebody was handling that. You specific people handle specific trucks. You have several cameras on there, which people might not see as a big deal, but I do, because maybe, just maybe, the young lady from East Point that was dumped into the garbage, somebody could have known she was dumped into the garbage, but in the garbage bin. So with that, that makes sense to me, that we might be able to, things like that happen, and it's unfortunate. So there's different things you guys have in place, and I'm not talking about all of, the technology is awesome. Mr. Gillingham mentioned that supervisors out in the, out around. There was supervisors around with GFL, yes, but I can tell you they didn't come around until I made complaints. So where they were supposed to be going around in our neighborhood because they had the supervisor truck, they weren't there, and one lives in my neighborhood. So I like that I've been there and saw the cameras, and you guys can say, okay, you're not only watching with the cameras, you do have somebody out there. So you have that double set of eyes, and it makes it much easier to see what's going on. So I just want to say thank you. And again, I'm not giving you I'm frustrated at you guys, because that's not where my frustration lies. It was how the things were done, but you guys didn't do it. So I'm not here to blame anybody. I just want to be progressive and go forward with the company and know that you guys will be better. That the attention will be there. I have seniors on my block, and we pull there. Unfortunately, GFL was leaving their garbage cans in the middle, and they're backing out in their, driveway. And I mean, like, again, some of them are much older and they have debilitating issues. So it was like, you guys got to stop. Like, they have to get out and try to move this garbage can in this recycle bin. And just FYI, recycles don't rot. Somebody was like, oh, I got rotten recycles. That's the whole reason for recycles is they don't rot. But so I hope to see this service much better than what we've had. And I know you guys offer a better benefit package, so that helps with your employees. And I think it was insurance or something, they have insurance, so that also helps. So those things that bring people there and want to keep them there, and especially to pay. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
In the years I'll give you the floor next, Mr.
Okay.
Chris. Have been here, I have never not seen the supervisors on the street. In fact, I've seen supervisors actually push people out of the snow in the wintertime. I've been extremely impressed with the company that's leaving, up until, as I said, about a month or so ago, when this transition took place that none of us and none of our community knew about. Mr. Chris?
Just a handful of quick questions. You're taking over 500 trucks and theoretically a large workforce. Do you own a landfill?
We do not.
Okay. Do you own a recycling center, or will you be utilizing their recycling center?
We have a network of landfills, material recovery facilities for recycling and compost sites that we have longstanding good contracts with that we can use for your community as well as others. We do have 2 transfer sites that we own, well 3.
Where are they located?
One's in Detroit off of McNichol, one's in Hamtramck off of Christopher, and then there's a third up in Flint that we're still finalizing.
Okay. So there's a chance our our garbage will make it down to McNichols and Mount Elliott, or will it be going straight to a waste management landfill on 29 Mile Road?
I think it depends on where the trucks are at in their routes and where they're covering for that day. I don't want to make any operational decisions because that's up to our COO to make. But we'll obviously make sure that the material is handled properly, goes to the proper source, isn't assumed to be contaminated or taken somewhere, as that I know is a common
Yes.
theme in the industry that they think that happens. And I'm not going to allude that other companies do it because I don't know their business. I just know what we do. If it's meant for recycling, we take it to the recycling facility. If it's compost, we take it to compost. We do our best not to commingle, but there is human error out on the field. If it ever gets caught that somebody does something improper, we take care of it, we address it, we handle it immediately. Going back to what Ms. Patton said, the cameras being around our trucks, we can see what happens as it occurs. We can watch it as it did. We know exactly what happened. So if it's human error that a bin wasn't marked correctly and it was emptied before they could identify it, we understand. If there's a intentional, then we take care of the proper steps for the employee to make sure that it's not it's understood that that's not accepted.
Okay. With you taking over GFL's residential accounts, will we still see GFL trucks in the neighborhood doing commercial dumpsters at pizza parlors and bars and that sort of thing?
Yeah, this acquisition does not include their commercial work, which includes roll-offs and the front load dumpsters for businesses. So that will remain in effect for them. That's not coming over. It's just their residential portion. The township commercial services, so the dumpsters that you have at the different buildings and the roll-offs at the different buildings, that will be coming to us. But anything for the upcoming bar, they will be able to continue to service those.
Okay. And I have been to your Hall Road Center. It is pretty remarkable. There's probably 100 screens on the wall, and very courteous and very enthusiastic employees that seem to love their job. So you're doing something right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Keys?
Thank you. I won't belabor too much of the conversation, but I did just do a tour at the recycling center with GFL, so I feel like I'm equipped with some questions I want to ask you about our future recycling. Really, mainly is the percentage that actually gets recycled. They, tout a pretty high number, and obviously that's because they're doing it all in-house and coordinated in one location. You having a network of locations, what are the successes or the rate of success for recycling?
It's a tough question for me to answer since I don't know what the material recovered facilities operation percentage of success and not is. We don't have that data. What I'll say is 100% of our recycling material that we pick up at the curb goes to a recycling center. From where they take it out is up to them. We take it to a number of facilities owned by GFL, to WM, to Republic, and the publicly traded one, Arasoc, that is managed by the communities in Oakland County, and Sacra in Troy, but also Oakland County.
Yeah, and just even to my colleagues, we talk about, maybe, it's hard to do this in an open setting. Maybe it's a good thing the public gets to hear, but the reality is, in the negotiations today, there's really not much, we can negotiate or debate. It's really learning about as much as we can from their current standing, which again, and I think you are doing a great job, but I think you would even understand when we do officially go out to bid and sign an extension or a longer contract, we want to know where our recycling is going here in Clinton Township. We want to have an in-depth conversation, not just putting you on the spot at the podium, but have our attorneys involved in a serious conversation about the use of trash hauling here in Clinton Township and recycling and composting as we add all these different services. So I think that yes, it is good to have this in an open setting, but I also think it's very important to have real answers to these questions when we have a long-term contract. Certainly today, I think you're doing a well enough job in making me feel comfortable that we're going to have these services for the length of our contract. But I hope that you would agree that in the future, when we do want to extend this out, we'll have a better relationship and a longer term conversation about some of these services.
Of course.
And so the one thing I do want to check on is I have heard the same complaints over the last 2 weeks. And a lot of it has been due to timing of pickup, but also the quality of the pickup. When I drove around after seeing or hearing some of these complaints, the one trend I saw throughout all the vehicles was one driver on each truck struggling to figure out how to handle getting the can to the proper spot, handling the dog in the street. In my experience, seeing more employees on those trucks, not relying on just technology and cameras, but relying on real people to do quality service for our seniors and our residents is probably the best solution. So I'm wondering, what are your standards in your company? What do you think is going to be the long-term solution for these vehicles? Do you envision vehicles, over the next year only having one employee on each of those? And so I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so your service model in the contract dictates more of a manual service because it's cart plus, meaning you can have material outside of the cart, or no cart, you could just have bags out. And generally in those communities, we would use a rear load vehicle that has the employee on the backside of the truck loading the material in. Now, the industry is moving to a more automated style for a number of reasons. Biggest one, safety. It is not safe to have a gentleman or a woman standing on the back of a truck on the side street. We see stories all the time of accidents occurring that are fatal, and the last thing we want to have happen is one of our employees lose their life or lose a limb or anything of that sort. So yeah, automated is a safer model, but for your style of service is probably not the best choice to use. So we will do a mixture, a blend of automated to manual. We're going to walk in day one with the same trucks, again, servicing Clinton Township as they were, with labor on the backside as required. And then as we get into it, we can make upgrades and improvements as we learn your community in depth. As we learn a street that's mainly automated, maybe we can transition to an automated vehicle in that area. But we're not going to do that day one. Day one, we're going to run it with the necessary people, probably too many people, to make sure that the streets are clean by the end of the day. Because I live in a different community. It was a day behind in my collection. I had neighbors asking me, I work for Priority, they know I work for Priority, what was happening and why we weren't picking up, and I had to clear that with them that we weren't servicing yet. But I helped, as we all do, our neighbors get through the tough time, be patient, work together, understand right now is a struggle, and I'm not asking you to do anything outside of what you need to do. I'm just saying we will be there for you when this transition occurs. We will be committed to getting this right, and we'll be committed to providing better service that Mr. Cannon, I know, will put pressure on us to provide.
And when we talk about those future plans, again, I just want to make sure, and you just articulated it, that overnight we're not going to see this change. And that, again, I think Clinton Township residents are looking towards the future. We're fine having a discussion about automated service for future contracts. But we want communication. We've heard about the ads. We've heard about, that. We want communication when that happens. We don't want the light switch to hit. Trustee Patton had alluded to good benefits and pay. What is the starting pay for an employee?
I can give a range. The drivers on our teams are making.
I mean, does that really come into play here, Mr. Keys?
Yeah, I think as Trustee Patton said.
I don't really think it comes into play here.
I think it does. I think
if the pay is too low, are we going to say no?
if you're not paying people a quality living wage, and we can see the long-term effects of that, we know that
people are flocking to their company right now.
I asked the question, if you're able to answer that.
I'll give a range that our employees are paid very well in the high 20s to low 30s per hour.
Okay.
Based on skill and what they're doing.
All right. When we talk about the dangers, when we talk about the fact that our vehicles, when I first started, or when I first even remember garbage trucks coming down Suffolk Street, there used to be 3 to 4 drivers on a truck. Now we're talking about one driver, automated. The ability for you to profit is going to go up, and the ability for employees and employees that live here in Clinton Township to make a living is going to go down. And they're going to need second and third jobs to be able to do that. And so what I want to ensure is, if you want to continue to be a partner here in Clinton Township, we want to see respectable wages. And as Trustee Patton alluded to,
I think we're getting too deep into this, talking about wages.
I think it's important. And so the last question I would ask is that, do you have an environment that allows for employees to discuss opportunities to unionize? Is that something that your company has?
We do have employees that are union.
Perfect. That's awesome. What is the union? No, that's fine. Yep, I can follow up with you. That's really good to know. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Cannon.
Sir, you have the floor. Don't go away.
No, I'm here.
Thank you. Dana Duggar, 37852 Suburban, in the best community, the best area of this township in the east central portion. I am pleased to hear from this gentleman, and I do say the past is the past. We don't need to look in the rearview mirror. It won't solve a thing. We need to look forward with these providers. However, we do need to look at our refuse ordinance. I have taken the time in the last few days to read through our refuse ordinance. We have not been enforcing it. And there's some things that are absolutely ridiculous. The gentleman alluded that they have trucks dating to 2016. Do you realize our ordinance says we can't have trucks on the road that are over 5 years old? How ludicrous. The age of vehicles is not important, the maintenance is. And a lot of this is, for your reference, this is item 1060.07 in our ordinance, and it's paragraph D. And a lot of the vehicles that we have out there and have had out there over the years from GFL and going back to previous, when you read through the requirements for the vehicles, one of the requirements, the first requirement is that the township inspect these vehicles before they're granted the privilege of operating in the township. Is that being done? Does anyone know? Does the board know? The current, do we inspect as our ordinance calls for? The ordinance says each vehicle shall be inspected by the township or designee at a location designated by the township. It goes on to speak to size and location of identifying characteristics on the trucks, the numbers, the phone number to contact people, a lot of things. And I understand we have a refuse committee. I couldn't find anything relative to minutes or when that committee meets. It does have the membership of it on there, but there's no reference as to when the refuse committee meets and how the Open Meeting Act is addressed there. But I would suggest to our board that as part of doing this and getting new people on board, that our refuse ordinance be reviewed, and some of the things that are ridiculous, telling a business that they can't have a vehicle over 5 years old is not appropriate. And Mr. Gilheim has worked with me on the maintenance of the other vehicles that's out there, but as they inherit these vehicles, I would hope that as they inherit them, that they demand, and I would hope, and I would ask this gentleman, if you'd allow me to ask him through the board, are they required to do a pre-trip inspection of their vehicle for the use?
I'm sorry, Dana, I didn't hear what you said.
I would like to ask this question. In commercial vehicles, typically you are required to do what's called a pre-trip inspection before you leave your yard in the morning. You check critical items on your vehicle, tires, steering, brakes, for leakage and everything. And I would like to know, does this new company require that of their drivers, or is it left up to their maintenance personnel? Because in our state, we have, as is in a lot of states, we have commercial vehicle regulations. And if you go through a weigh station or any time, you could be pulled over by a motor carrier officer and done what's called a level 1 inspection, which checks critical items on your vehicle: steering, brakes, tires, lights, any leakage. And if you have a vehicle that is leaking fluid on the roadway, they will put you out of service until that is repaired. So my point tonight is going over our refuse ordinance, tweaking it, making it current, and making it, it goes back to the old, say what you do and do what you say. And that we need to make sure that and make sure, and we also cover things about, in our refuse ordinance, about the condition of trucks and condition of dumpsters and roll-offs that are used. They have to be painted. They can't be dented up. They can't be rust buckets. And dumpster sites in our township, the fixed sites, I know one that comes to mind I see very often is at the Chase Bank on Harper and 16. The dumpster enclosures had the gates tore off of it for many, many years. We need
Okay,
to be,
Dana, we're on the rubbish.
yes, this is rubbish, sir.
The
This is
rubbish contract.
This is rubbish contract, but we need to be firm, fair, and consistent of how we administer this township and our ordinances. I thank you so much for your time, and I wish the very best to our new company here.
Well, we haven't approved them yet.
Well, we're between a rock and a hard place, so have a good evening.
You said that, but I don't like it. I'm sure we have a rubbish committee, and I'm sure they're going to be meeting much more often because of this. So there's things that could be brought up, and there's always room for improvement. There's no question about that. Yes, sir.
Sam Bushel, 18546 Wayland Drive. There again, GFL is going to be very flush with cash as they're selling off.
That's not the issue here.
Well,
We're not talking about GFL and their cash.
Well,
Get to the point, please.
this board is considering giving a signature to allow this contract to go through with the new company. GFL did not follow the terms of the contract to us. We are the injured party. There again, money comes into it. The obvious thing is GFL is still going to be doing business in the township on their wonderful dumpster services. And I believe this board owes it to the citizens to demand that GFL come up with some cash to get this signature so their contract can go through. We're not between a rock and a hard place. This is the largest population township in Michigan. We're the 11th largest community in Michigan. If a company like GFL can literally just blow off the contract and then still be able to operate in the township without coming into any terms to paying off the damages that they've done to the community, there's something wrong. This board is doing a disfavor if they actually vote to approve this tonight without GFL coming to with something in it for the citizens. Thank you.
As I stated earlier, I'm very disappointed in the last month with our current vendor. This transfer has to be transparent. We didn't ask for this. None of us asked for this. None of us saw it coming. If we did, we would have, a couple of years ago, extended the contract as GFL wanted us to, and we would be sitting on a big fat contract that they would have to assume, and maybe they would not have wanted Clinton Township as part of their fleet. If we vote tonight to do what I think most of us are going to vote to do, we lose all leverage. We can trust Dan to come back later and tell us they're going to do different things. They're going to extend the contract. They're going to extend the contract at the same rate, or they're going to extend the contract with some cost of living arrangements. And that's what business is. They got to make their money too. But we vote tonight, or we don't get our garbage picked up. That's the bottom line. None of us want to even think of that. You didn't put us in that position, Dan. GFL put us in that position, and I blame them.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
If I could just ask, because I appreciate the picture the supervisor has painted for us, because I want us to be mindful and in a position where we're ready to.
Well, you can vote any way you want.
No, I'm understanding what the picture you're painting. I want to make sure, though, through you to our attorney, if we do approve this, we do have some leverage. It's our contract, and so if conditions were to somehow not be met over the next 6 months.
You are correct.
We're able to take priority to court or whatever we would need to do. I just want to ensure we're not giving up any of those rights.
No, I totally agree with you. I don't think they're going to violate anything that we have in the contract. What I think is going to happen is down the road, very shortly, we're going to get some increases.
Right.
And what I would like to have done tonight is to get an extension on the current contract, because our current contract is good. Our residents like it. And some of our businesses do too. I like the contract, and I liked what they did until this whole event occurred. I've heard the same rumors, I've read the same things, and people say they're stealing employees. I don't believe that. I think there's a lot of discouragement with people who are losing their jobs, and they're going elsewhere, maybe to their company sooner or later, and maybe to other businesses that are hiring at some good rates right now. People have asked me, I'm extremely impressed with the company, but is this an antitrust issue? Who could compete and come in and do our contract right now if they don't do it? Give me one company, give me two companies that could come in and pick up the garbage in Clinton Township starting July 1st. And there aren't any, because we've checked I would have liked to have had a little more leverage. We don't have any leverage tonight. The only leverage we have is, can you be a good new owner of this company and help us out a little bit with advertising and help us out with an additional year beyond March of 2026 to give us time, to give the new board time to evaluate what they're doing. And I don't have any problem with evaluating the type of trucks, the type of people, the type of operation they run. Mrs. Patton?
Yeah, I make the motion for approval to assign GFL environmental contract to Priority Waste.
Would that be inclusive of all of the services that are currently being provided in the list as was referenced?
To.
Their acknowledgement to perform pursuant to that list that Mr. O'Leary had prepared?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay, I have a quick,
Well, we need a support, then you can.
I'll support.
I'm sorry,
I'll
Mr.
support.
Keys?
so
Mrs.
I
Meltzer?
want, just for the record, what the conditions that exist in this packet is, Mr. Bennett basically said that he couldn't authorize a year. But this number, if you look at item 20, it's extend the length of the contract under the existing financial and other terms, incorporating the list above for an additional 3 years beyond the expiration date.
That's not what I just supported. I
No,
supported
I didn't
the.
support it. I'm reading it.
Wait a
I
minute,
didn't.
this is what's in the packet. That's what I'm saying.
I understand, but we just had an hour-long discussion. What's submitted in the packet isn't always what's approved. I heard the motion was.
There's no delineation
Time out,
of what
time
it
out.
is you guys had said you wanted.
I think
There
Mrs.
is
Patton is.
here. I just want you guys to
You're
be doing
approving the
this
transfer of the contract.
with eyes wide open here. You're approving this and saying that it's a 3-year extension when
No,
Mr.
no,
Bennett
no,
said
she
it
didn't.
isn't.
She just said
No.
to approve
Here.
But what she verbalized, the motion she verbalized is not that.
I understand.
Yeah, okay.
We got it covered.
Thank you.
So why didn't we
I understand. But you didn't say motion to approve the attached. You said.
I said motion to
Well,
approve.
oftentimes we take the letter and that's what we use.
Yeah, okay, so we can clarify the
So-
motion with Ms. Patton.
Okay.
Ms. Patton, your
Yes.
motion, did it include or not include a 3-year extension?
It did not include.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, no extension. There's no extension.
But it did include the other provisions on the list provided by Mr. O'Leary, is that
The
correct?
services.
The services, yes.
That's correct.
And what's,
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, that's what I
Yes.
just needed
but
clarification
thank you
because.
for asking that, yes.
Thank you.
And clarifying. So, Mr. Keys, you support that?
I will support.
Thank you.
Further comments from the board? Again, Mr. Vinay is bringing forward what his company is going to offer us. I think they're going to give us a very good service. I'm disappointed they won't give us an additional couple of years to the contract that we currently have because it's a great contract. I'm hoping to take you and others at your company at their word that you will come back to the table and sit with our rubbish committee, which Mr. Gilliam chairs, and talk about extending the contract at the same or reasonable rate, because we've come to expect that in this community. We've got great service, and we want to continue that at a reasonable price. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton,
Yes.
trustee Keys,
Yes.
trustee Matuzak,
Yes.
supervisor Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Kress,
Yes.
treasurer Gilliam,
Yes.
clerk Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 4, request approval to have the Office of Clerk approve all non-Class C quota liquor licenses.
At the June 13th, 2024 Budget Ways and Means meeting, committee members approved the recommendation to amend the non-Class C quota liquor license process. The process of local municipalities approving all non-Class C quota license has changed since 2012 by the Michigan Liquor Commission agency. The township is no longer initiates this process. The only license we initiate is the new Class C quota license. Since 2012, these applications are initiated at the state level. The committee recommends changing the township's process of making applicants wait for their transfer approvals by the Board of Trustees. Applicants would still need department head approval, treasurer, planning, building, and fire to proceed with final approval. We have always approved SDM and SDD Class C transfers without exception. Therefore, there really is no reason to make the applicant wait until we have a board meeting to approve what is already approved by the state and our department heads. Our local opportunity to make a rejection for approval would come only after the applicant has been in business and if there were any violations, for example, serving alcohol to minors, and there's others. Should such violations come to our attention, we would have the opportunity to submit a letter to request rejection of license approval to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. In addition to the recommended change, upon approval of all liquor licenses, the clerk's office will notify all board members of the transfer through email. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Kind regards, Kim Meltzer, Clinton Township Clerk.
Mr. Cannon?
Mr. Dolan?
Ms. Meltzer, we had furnished your office a copy of an ordinance which would, in effect, provide for the township board to select a designee to perform the functions that you're requesting. So we would be, are we acting on that ordinance proposal tonight? Because if you're just asking for a general approval, we'll have to follow this with the adoption of the ordinance before you take over those duties.
Correct, yes. I think the issue was, and I did talk to Attorney McGrail about it, and we were going to proceed, but then I think the conversation was that if it didn't pass, then we would have an ordinance on the agenda and it wouldn't go anywhere. So
Okay. So
we'll
this
just
is,
go ahead and initiate it at
that's
the next
fine.
meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Or
for
introduce it.
clarification purposes for the board and the public, what Ms. Meltzer is saying is that she wants to approve have the concept approved. What will follow next is we'll come to the board. We've already got the ordinance drafted with a ordinance. That ordinance will provide that the board has the authority to designate a party to perform the functions that Ms. Meltzer is requesting. So if you in fact did adopt that ordinance, then you could designate her to perform those functions.
I was just, during the Budget Ways and Means Committee, we had a good discussion about this. These are not what we term the free liquor licenses that we have the ability to give out. These are licenses that are being transferred from one business to another. And the reality is that this board has no power really to do anything in that approval process.
Correct.
It's just a formality. Stating our intent that people don't have to come to the board to do this, it can just be done administratively, makes a lot of sense. The Liquor Control Commission does the work.
Yeah.
If the establishment has issues after the fact, then our ordinances take effect and we could then proceed with enforcement. But otherwise, we are saying this is purely an administrative function. We have no power to do anything about this, and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you.
Mr. Cannon, our function is as a recommending body. We can, Ms. Matusik is correct that the LCC has the sole authority, but they do provide for and allow recommendations, which is what our function is.
Thank you. Sir?
There again, Sam Bushel, 18546 Wayland Drive. I was also at the Budget Ways and Means Committee, and I voiced the fact that it's important, and there again, we're having a lot of stuff administratively approved in this township that are a little bit strange, but this keep the public, the board approving or disapproving or having this in front of them, it doesn't delay it does not delay anybody's service at the bars or restaurants. And there again, because that was not what was stated a few minutes ago, that would be a delay. And it's just a matter of letting the public know. The public may, there again, at an open meeting, all of a sudden with the board just saying, bartender, bar owner this is going to this bar owner this. Some people may have to have information that they might want to know. And it's just something, if it doesn't take them any extra time, it doesn't cost them any money, all you're doing is keeping the public out of the loop. You're not letting the public know what's going on. So if that's what you want to do, and with the administrative things that are going on now, that seems to be what you really want to do is keep in the dark. So thank you.
In my 40 years, I've never heard of that happening. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor,
No, but I'll make a motion too.
supported by Mr. Gilliam.
Yeah. Well, no, Ms. Patton was,
I'm sorry, did you support it?
I was commenting.
supporting.
I was raising
Yeah.
my hand to comment on the issue. Okay.
Did you support it?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Gilliam?
Okay, so just a couple things that haven't been mentioned yet. That all of these licenses are on the state's website, the Liquor Control Commission's website. Then there are some additional provisions. These licenses will still have to go to the police department, still have to go to the fire department for review, and they'll still have to come to my office, the treasurer's office, for review to make sure that they're in compliance with the ordinance that says, hey, you can't owe anything, you can't have a back balance or delinquent balance. So we review that to make sure that the taxes are up to date and any open invoices are up to date. And that will still occur under this process, but it'll be up to Ms. Meltzer to administer the
Thank you.
overall. And it won't be coming to the board meeting to say, yes, we rubber stamp it, even though we don't have any authority over it.
Right. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Crest?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 5 was a request to approval for the RICO contract termination.
So move to approve.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Trustee Keys? I'm sorry, Trustee
Mrs.
Patton.
Patton?
I'm sorry, Trustee Patton.
Yes.
I don't know, I just marked the wrong one. Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Crest?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 6, a request to schedule a public hearing on a request for a new industrial facilities exemption certificate.
Dear Honorable Board Members, the Charter Township of Clinton Economic Development Corporation met on Wednesday, June 12, 2024, to review the above-referenced industrial facility exemption certificate request. All requirements have been found to be in order. Please include a public hearing pertaining to this request for Monday, June 24, 2024. If you have any questions in this regard, please do not hesitate to contact me. Respectfully submitted, James Elrod, Assessor.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Trustee Matuzak.
Yes.
Trustee Keys.
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon.
Yes.
Trustee Crest.
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7 is an update to the guidelines for determining the length of the industrial facilities tax abatement.
Dear Honorable Board Members, the Charter Township of Clinton Economic Development Corporation met on Wednesday, June 12, 2024, and unanimously voted to recommend an update to the guidelines for determining length of industrial facilities tax abatement in existing industrial development district, a proposed single-use district. Please note that this falls under the jurisdiction of the Township Supervisor and is subject to approval by the Township Board. The EDC Committee requests the approval of the updated guidelines be made by the Board. Thank you for your consideration. This matter respectfully submitted, James Elrod, Assessor. And then those updates, let's see. The EDC and Board of Trustees will consider granting 1 year of tax abatement for each evaluation point awarded below, and the maximum number of years awarded cannot exceed 12 years. And then it lists what those are. So it's based on total investment value and the points, so it's a point system. And then also it includes how many employees will be hired as well. That determines how the point system and then and the location.
Yes.
Questions? I got too many questions in my head at the same time. How many industrial facilities tax abatements exist in the township?
Very few. So, do you want me to jump in here, Mr. Cannon?
No, you know more than I do about
Okay,
that.
all right. Very
There's
few.
your tax guy over there.
So industrial facility, one, Clinton Township is largely a residential community. We have
Right.
commercial districts. We do not have big tracts of industrial property. There are areas spaced out here and there, but all of our industrial facilities are close to coming off. And my staff's not going to be happy because there's a lot of administration with this now that we have a new one that we just approved in the last agenda item. However, what this does is tighten that criteria. We just approved one for 12 years, even though it will be an expansion of the business, but it will be, in a sense, warehousing space with very few employees and a small level of investment. We're still giving up the tax revenue.
Part of
However,
it.
At a 50% rate, for all of the taxing authorities. And so this one wasn't spurring a whole lot of investment, but is a company that made a significant investment years prior and didn't get an industrial facilities tax abatement.
I thought we approved a public hearing on a tax abatement.
Right, but yes, it's moving towards approval of
Yeah,
this next one.
not with my vote.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
All right, so these are tax abatements in the way that I understand them.
They
A company
are.
comes in, they promise investment, they promise jobs. My experience with tax abatements over the years is that people don't have to pay the taxes, but there's no follow-up. Are they actually creating jobs? Are they a benefit to the community? I'm never voting for a tax abatement. I'm just putting that out there right now. And additionally, I think it's like in the wrong order. I'm interested in promoting new businesses, and if they get a little tax break in the first couple of years, that's fabulous. But the minute they start doing well, they should be good citizens and pay their fair share for the services they receive. So there is no way this makes any sense to me.
Okay, well, I would argue that this actually provides what you're looking for. It meets that goal because it tightens up the criteria. It would award less years. It increases the amount of the investment that is necessary to receive it. And the points would be, we're basically saying you're not getting points for a small investment. You have to be a larger investment to get the multiple years and get to fully up to the 12 years.
And then how do we enforce this?
That's very difficult because it's through the state.
So we
Once-
give people a tax abatement because they promise they're going to create a lot of jobs, and they don't create the jobs, and they still get the tax abatement.
Well, in the previous case, they weren't offering any jobs. They were just saying, hey, we're going
Right.
to make this
No,
investment
I
in the
understand
community.
that, but
We're going to
in-
increase the taxable value to the community, and we're going to pay 50% for a series of years based upon however many points are awarded. So in the previous case, we awarded 12 years. Under this new criteria, they would have only gotten 6 years. But we can't do it retroactively.
I got that. I just think that everyone needs to be good corporate citizens, and they all receive services from the township, and people ought to pay their fair share. So I'll be voting no on this, just in general principle.
Okay. Well, it's a tightening of the criteria, so it helps get you
Yeah.
closer to what you're looking for. But if you want to object to the entire thing, you can
I'm
certainly do that.
objecting to the entire concept.
Years ago, I sat in your seat, and I said almost the same thing. And Steve Casson was the planning director here. And at that time, we were recruiting businesses from Fraser, from Rose. We were all in competition. We're not in competition today. That's why I'm in favor of this change, because it does, as Mr. Gilliam said, tighten it up quite a bit.
That's good.
Okay.
I'm just not.
But I think when you have an opportunity to help businesses, you can. Sir?
Question through the chair to Paul, for instance. We're having a public hearing for a new exemption, correct? That's what we just voted on the last item? And this item, we're setting up a criteria. What's the rationale of having a public hearing after we decide on criteria? Don't we want public input on the criteria? So why are we putting it in stone ahead of the public hearing? Just a question.
I think they applied when the old rules applied. Now, if we vote on this, there will be new rules, so the next person coming in who applies, and there aren't very many who apply, by the way, will
what's the-
operate under the new rules.
So what's the purpose of the public hearing? What are we gonna establish at that hearing?
Mr. Dolan?
That's required by statute. It's sort of a cumbersome process. You have to first create an industrial development district. Then under the statute, you give out the certificate, which is the actual tax abatement. And the statute requires that there be a public hearing at the time that the certificate is
So is
actually
the public
approved.
hearing
So
just a formality? I mean, so we get to set it in stone what we're gonna do, and then
Well-
we have people come and argue against it, but we've already voted on it? Is this putting the cart before the horse?
No, the first item is dealing with the specific parcel,
Okay,
and this is dealing with our policy.
okay.
Future applications will be reviewed, evaluated for points and number of years under a tighter criteria.
So this is a public hearing for let's say a manufacturing facility that's coming in. So it's not just
Public hearing is all done. This is the new criteria, yeah.
okay, so the public hearing is on an individual basis. This isn't a public hearing to establish the criteria.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct, but basically, when we vote on it, we allow input from the public. Just about all of our agenda items are similar to a public hearing in that we always allow people who are attending the meeting to have input, so.
okay. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We know your address.
Yep, okay. I like the public to hear it anyways. Gets people to come to me. Sam Bushel, 18546 Wayland Drive. And there again, this is setting up criteria that Mr. Gilliam says that under this system, the one that they just approved, the item before this, would have only gotten 6 years instead of 12 years, where they haven't gotten it yet. So in other words, the public hearing somehow administratively behind the scenes again, behind closed doors, which I'm seeing a lot of. Just shake your head, but it's just a matter of, it's what you said. You said it's already been approved. A couple times you said we already approved this one. It's a warehouse. I know what the public hearing's about. It's a warehousing operation that under this new system would get 6 years, but you're going to give them 12 years because you've already made the decision without the public hearing. Thank you.
No, we made a decision because they applied with the old rules. If we vote on this tonight, there will be new rules for the next people coming in. We're trying to be fair to this company that applied under a certain criteria, under certain guidelines, and let them flounder or flourish with it.
Well, they applied, but they haven't had their public hearing yet. That you're saying that you're saying the decision's been made before the public hearing.
No decision has been made.
Okay.
We're making those decisions
I'm
tonight.
just, you can rewatch the tape to see it.
Refer to Jack.
Okay.
on this.
Mr. Cannon,
Mr. Dolan?
Mr. Bushell, you make comments a lot about the board, and
This is not a back
we
and
we are
forth.
all public persons who, but when you talk and make a claim that something was done behind closed doors and something wasn't done compliant with the law, and you're referencing an item where a business is involved, you might want to confer with your attorney, because you can say words that aren't actionable against us, but when you involve not just us, but a private business like that, you may run into some trouble because you're disparaging the integrity of that business.
I mentioned a business. You better watch the tape.
You just
We all
referenced
heard
the
it, Mr.
business
Michelle.
is
You heard that- what-
identifiable
I heard what you
from the
just
item.
said.
What business did I mention?
You mentioned the business that we just voted on.
What business
Said
was
things
that?
were done behind closed doors for the benefit of this business,
Well,
which did not happen. There was
We're
no
not going to
evidence
debate it. We all
whatsoever.
heard it.
I hope the
We're
newspapers
not
pick
going
it
to
up.
debate it. Thank you, Mr. Dolan. Do we have a motion, Mrs. Melton?
No, we don't, but can I just make one comment?
Yes.
Just, and I'll probably be the lone one because I always am on these issues. I'm pretty much certain that none of the people on this board have run a manufacturing company, and that's what these are. These are IFTs and industrial facilities, tax exemption. It's companies that, it's very difficult to be in a manufacturing setting. And their competition is now worldwide. And so there's so many fluctuations in whether a business can survive. And so I will tell you that once this tightening of the process goes into play, there'll be less opportunities for businesses in the area of manufacturing to want to come to Clinton Township and operate, because they won't have that opportunity to possibly obtain an IFT so that they can get through those rough spots and those growing pains that are always a part of any business, no matter what type of business that is. But so I am a no on this one, because I just have always felt that people in government that don't really know. They've never been in business. I know, Mr. Kress, you have been in business, so maybe you're an exception. My husband and I have been in business. I understand the difficulties that exist in the private sector. And when people come up here and shake their hand and act like they know what's going on in the private sector, I find that insulting, and I find it unfortunate that these are the same people that are making the rules that infringe upon others' rights. And so I'm a hard no on this issue, and I think we should be welcoming manufacturing, and the way to do that, because other communities, other municipalities are going to be giving out IFTs. So now they're just going to look elsewhere because they don't have an opportunity to flourish here. So I'm a no. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support. Roll call, please.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon.
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak.
No.
Trustee Keys.
Yes.
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
No.
Clerk Meltzer, no. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 8,
I don't know
Mr. Gilliam.
I don't know why she voted the way she did. Okay. Item 8 is your quarterly report.
Yes, quarterly treasurer's report. So report as presented, not a whole lot different than the last report. We are trending just below the benchmark, but the benchmark is performing better than everything that's long-term. So we still have some long-term stuff on there, which we have to do. We have to make sure we get those dollars out there in a laddered approach. And as the laddered investments that are older come off, we're reinvesting them into new investments that are producing better yields.
And this is what he does 4 times a year. Any comments or questions? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by.
Support.
Mrs.
Who made the
Patton,
motion to
supported by
approve? I'm
Mr.
sorry, I
Keys.
didn't, who made the motion?
Mr. Keys.
Okay.
Mr. Keys supported.
Ready?
Roll call.
Okay. Trustee Keys.
Yes.
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak.
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 9 is something we've talked about in the past and the board has approved, but this is a request approval of the rifle purchases bid for our sworn police officers.
Honorable board members, I'm writing to request approval to purchase 81 patrol rifles for our sworn officers. This item was approved for this year's budget, capital outlay in the amount of $215,000, and will be reimbursed by the officers through paycheck deductions. The item was put out for bid on Mitten, and the deadline to submit bid was June 17th, 2024. 15 bids were received, ranging from a low of $177,714, which is Blue Line Firearm, to a high of $245,554.38 by Steel Industries. Next lowest bids were from GovSmart Inc. in the amount of $182,563.47. Also Clyde Armory Inc. in the amount of $182,759.49. And AZ Arms Inc. $183,465. In consideration of the above quotes, we are requesting that the bid be awarded to AZ Arms, Inc., as they are a local distributor who has a physical location in Shelby Township. This will enable easy resolution to any issues that may arise with such a large order, warranty, or otherwise. Furthermore, the police department has done business with AZ Arms, Inc. in the past without any issues. Should you have any questions or concerns regarding this matter, please feel free to contact me at any time. Respectfully, Captain Susala, Captain Administration.
Okay, and our chief is here
I'll
this
make a
evening.
motion for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I got a question, sir. Just a point of clarity, I noticed in the letter it regards payroll deductions from the officers. Are we purchasing these and basically reselling them to the officers, that they become property of the officers
That's
after a
correct.
point of time? Okay,
Yes.
that was just a clarity. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Mr. Dana? I just wanted to comment that I appreciated the chief and Treasurer Gilliam and others working to answer some of the questions on liability today. I do hope that we can incorporate those types of conversations even prior to putting things out to bid to give us a bit of more reassurance. But obviously today you worked well to make sure that we were comfortable. So thank you.
We did have some discussions on this part of our budget discussions.
Yes. Yep.
But I'm like looking at it, I said, what about liability? So I fired off some questions to the attorneys, and then that then prompted a few other questions. And so we got the answers that we needed, and I'm comfortable with approving this. So.
Good. We have a motion and a support. Roll call.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Krass?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 10, approval of payment of the OMID Drainage District Construction Project.
Dear members of the board, the Oakland Macomb Interceptor Drainage District has notified us of their next round of construction projects in the township's portion of the cost as a member of the district. The total project cost is $11,400,000, with Clinton Township's share totaling $1,558,475. The township has the option to prepay our assessment by August 9th, 2024, or participate in the issuance of bonds to fund the project. The bonds are anticipated to be issued in August with an interest estimate at 4% payable over 20 years, which would add an estimated additional cost of approximately $779,000. It is my recommendation and the recommendation of the Director of Public Services, Mary Bednar, to elect to prepay the assessment to save the additional finance costs. Please approve the prepayment of the project cost so that I can notify the Drain Board by the July 12th, 2024 deadline. Sincerely, Mary Hine, Finance Director.
So moved as presented to
Second.
prepay.
Yep, second.
We will save a lot of money by doing this. Roll call, please.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Trustee Matuzak.
Yes.
Trustee Keys.
Yes.
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11 is a request for approval of key guidelines for the opioid committee. This is not to say who we're going to pick as the guidelines.
Esteemed Board, as you are aware, Clinton Township has been awarded funds as a result of the opioid class action lawsuit. Those funds must be used for legitimate purposes to help fight the opioid epidemic. Legitimate purposes include things such as education, prevention, treatment, remediation, harm reduction, and other items as outlined in the settlement agreement. To date, we have received $1.3 million in funds, with over $600,000 coming in the last 30 days. We are working with legal counsel to better project cash flows, which is complicated by the fact that some suits remain unsettled and some have terms that can alter future payments. As you can imagine, entering into multi-year partnerships is challenging without having a firm grasp on projected cash flows. Therefore, at this time, the committee is focused on deploying only what is known to have been received, not anticipated dollars. The OAC has met several times to develop guidelines and an approach for determining how to deploy the opioid funds. We are recommending the following principles to guide our efforts. Number 1, invest in impactful ways. 2, impact local families. 3, avoid recreating the wheel. Take advantage of existing avenues when possible. Item 4, team up to spread dollars. 5, look for measurable results and reporting. 6, avoid inequitable distribution according to race, age, geography, economic status. 7, be open both about our process and our spending. And 8, ensuring we impact these main areas: education and prevention, and treatment and remediation. We reached out to key existing partners to seek guidance on fund deployment. Those organizations are our 41B Drug Court and CARE of Southeastern Michigan. Both have submitted proposals, but only the court has been interviewed at this time. A meeting with CARE will occur this summer. We are also considering a discussion with FAN, which is not an existing partner, but which may have insight. However, given the uncertainty of future fund flows, we are primarily focused on known parties for which we already have a working relationship. Upon evaluating their proposals, we are hopeful we will make a spending recommendation to you in the late summer, early fall. At this time, we are asking you to ratify the key guidelines that we have defined to our guide deployment of these funds. Your consideration of this is appreciated. Dan O'Leary.
I move to receive and file. Are
Yes.
we receiving and filing?
Well,
No, that's what it is.
Okay, I move that.
Is there a second?
Support.
This will be back.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cannon, can I just make a comment?
Of course.
Really quick, in this letter, and I just didn't get a chance, I've been so busy, I wanted to talk to Mr. O'Leary about it. I wanted just to know how FAN is not a known party. I mean, we approve what they do on an annual basis. I think they are a known party, and I do think that that they should be included in the interview process. And
But I think they are.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah, and because I do think they do an incredible service
Well,
to our
yeah.
community. So the fact that that's gonna happen is important, and I'm glad we're gonna do that.
No,
That was my
they're
comment.
on the list.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, as a member, Ms. Patton and I are both a member on that committee. The committee has done, I think, some good work in trying to really focus pretty clearly on community and on prevention and on treatment. Part of FAN's programs fall a little outside of that.
How so?
Mitigation, risk reduction. They
But
are.
that really is, that's the next discussion. Because
Right,
now
no,
you're-
but I'm sort of
let
explaining.
them
So they were not in our initial ask. We have now included them. We asked everybody, instead of saying, here's what we have, we did it the opposite way, which is to say, if you had money from us, what new and innovative and important thing would you do that you can't do now? And they came to us with proposals that are in fact pretty innovative. And so we're looking to sort of evaluate with the money we have in hand. We're also really concerned about this money. So we're looking at the money we have in hand, which is, I think, far less than the public thinks, to try to figure out what we can do to really make an impact that's innovative and interesting and exciting, and maybe we can lead the way for other things. So
In
we
our
are
own
excited.
community.
We are excited
Yeah.
to look at all the proposals.
Yeah.
But it's a process. We got to go through it
Yeah.
one at a time.
So this is one of the first steps to get to that point. Mr. Gilliam?
I kind of think some context is important here, and some history. We joined in on a lawsuit against the opioid manufacturers, the distributors, the retailers, because this was a grand scheme for these drugs to be distributed in inappropriate ways that they knew were harmful, that they knew were addictive, that they knew were causing huge cost to the communities. So when these lawsuits came about, municipalities started jumping on board. We then had to evaluate what our costs were for treatment of folks that were somehow subjected to the harm of this addiction and these bad practices. So once we did that, we joined in on the lawsuit, and then we're starting to receive the settlements. These companies are settling out of court, and they're saying, hey, we're going to settle, but we're going to pay this much money. It's going to be distributed via a state formula, but there's also all this criteria adjusted to it that is health-related and curbing the crisis that, in a sense, those companies created. So we don't know exactly how much we're getting. We don't normally do these health-related things. That's more of a county service. But at the same time, we now have these dollars, so we want to spend them as wisely as we can. And I commend the committee for the work that they've done.
Okay.
I think this is great criteria.
The floor is open for a motion.
We already have it in a
Okay,
second.
roll call.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes,
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Clerk Munster, yes, motion passes.
thank you. The next two items are closed sessions.
We'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Support.
Well, the first one is for the
Opioid settlement.
Kroger.
Yeah, I guess we have to read that.
Are we coming
Opioid-
out?
It has to be
Not for the,
read.
well, Yes, we might for this one. We're coming out, for sure.
Mr. Cannon, did you want to read that in its entirety? I think
No.
for the record, we
No.
have,
No.
What are you
yeah,
referring to, Kim?
opioid settlement, Clinton Township versus
Yes.
Kroger. That's what
Okay.
I mean.
Right.
So we're voting on that one for the Kroger. Roll call?
I just need a second. Did you second
I
it,
did
Tammy?
second it.
I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and item 13, Mr. Dolan has litigation regarding Hartwig.
Says pending
Is that the
litigation.
only one, Jack?
No, there's Hartwig versus Clinton Township, Macomb Circuit Court, BFM LLC versus Clinton Township, Macomb Circuit Court, OOC versus Clinton Township, Federal District Court, and 15 Mile Gratiot LLC versus Clinton Township, Macomb Circuit Court.
We have circuit court on that, not
And
federal
we'll be coming
district.
out for some of those, correct?
Yes, we will be coming out on OOC versus Clinton Township.
So we will be coming
Federal
back into
District
open
Court.
session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
For which one?
The one that we're coming out with, the OOC versus Clinton Township.
That's Federal District
It should
Court.
not be Macomb.
There's 4 extra lawsuits. That's what
Federal
confusion
District
is.
Court.
Yeah, just trying to figure out if they have to list them all.
Okay, let me do that. Okay, and that's cool. All right, I'm sorry, what was the motion, or who made the motion and seconded?
Patton and
Motion.
Keys.
Mr. Keys.
Mr. Keys?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Keys was
Oh,
made the.
well, you said Patton and Keys, so.
It was you.
Oh.
Doesn't matter.
I'm not-
Yes.
Whatever. Trustee, nope, I'm gonna do it this way. Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Musser, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 14, request to adjust deputy clerk's compensation during statewide and presidential election years.
Dear board members, the lifeblood of any organization is its people. Compensation for work performed is agreed upon at the time of hiring, but when the job responsibilities markedly increase without recognizing fair compensation, a failure of fair labor standards can present itself. My request is about fairness of compensation for work performed that benefits both this institution, the people this institution represents, and the state's and our country's democracy. The Michigan's legislature, the Bureau of Elections, and the People's Ballot Initiative through Proposition 2022-2 have mandated clerks, their deputies, and election staff to statutorily perform greatly expanded election functions, resulting in huge increases in overtime. During non-statewide and presidential election years, accumulated comp and vacation time can be used. However, the demand by this increase in election work during statewide and presidential years does not provide the ability to take the earned comp and vacation time accumulated, therefore resulting in zero compensation of the work performed by our deputy clerk. My deputy, just from the February presidential election, worked 166 hours above her regular hours, none of which she got paid or comped. The township, however, does get reimbursed for those hours she worked. My request today is to ask this board to address this inequity and compensate my deputy the hours worked during statewide and presidential election years on a one-to-one basis. This request addresses the fairness of getting paid for the work this employee does for the welfare of this institution and the people. This request is not asking for an increase in hourly pay nor overtime pay. Under my leadership, I have already addressed my temp workers' compensation, and they are paid on a one-to-one basis at a competitive rate. I am not addressing the hours I work and do not get paid for, but only my deputy. Please note the published letters from the MTA, the Michigan Township Association, and MAMC, the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks, recommending communities address fair compensation to the election staff considering the extra work they must do to execute democracy. I have spoken with our employment attorney on this matter, and he has confirmed bringing this request to the board is the appropriate avenue to address compensation for my non-represented deputy clerk. I am asking this board to assign the overtime payments of hours worked to my deputy for the 2024 presidential primary and any overtime hours on a one-to-one basis due to the execution of elections during statewide and presidential election years going forward. Sincerely, Kim Meltzer, Clinton Township Clerk. And I'm here to answer any questions that you guys may have. I do want to remind you, back 4 years ago, when Civic Tech and they had granted a grant to us in the amount of $68,000, and I forwarded that money on to our election workers. And part of that money paid for the money that we felt was owed to our deputy clerk. So this has been an ongoing problem. There's definitely an issue with the intensity of the amount of work that is demanded by the election administrators during a federal election and statewide elections. Now we have to incur an extra 9 days of early voting, and those days fall on 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays. None of that is paid overtime. None of it's compensated because we can't take time off. So I'm not asking for myself. I am not at all, of course, so that's a whole nother process. But this process of me asking on behalf of my deputy is appropriate that I bring it to this board. And so I'm asking for that consideration, and I hope you'll prioritize the work that she has done for this community and has done for all of us. Thank you.
I make a motion for approval of the request.
I'll second that motion.
I'm going to vote no. The minute we vote yes, we will have everybody's department lined up at the door saying, we have busy times. Every department has busy times. I know they have a busy time. Here we have a deputy who makes way more money than I do, which is fine, who makes a lot of money, I mean, well over $100,000, and you're asking for her to be paid overtime like a clerical person.
No, I'm not.
I think that's wrong.
I'm not asking overtime, Mr.
Okay,
Keenan.
well,
To your point, I'm just responding.
You and I have talked about this.
We have.
I'm not in favor of this.
Yes, I understand.
Mr. Kress?
Is this retroactive pay, or is this going forward for the 2024 election?
I don't know.
Well, in the letter, it states, so we have submitted reimbursement for the presidential primary, and I'm saying that money so my deputy submitted that over those hours that she had worked, 166 hours. So she submits it to the state, and through the HAVA grants, and that money is reimbursed. But it doesn't go to her. She's the one that did the work. It goes to the township. I don't know any other, and I could be wrong, but I don't know any other department that they get reimbursement from another entity and then it goes into the pot for the general fund. She's the one that did the work. It's just, so to answer your question, this has not been reimbursed yet. So I'm including the full, the presidential election year. So the township is being reimbursed that amount of the hours that she worked. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Meltzer, I can tell you that my office more than pays for itself, and that money goes into the general fund from the work we do. So it's not a grant, but it is investment earnings on behalf of the township, and those dollars go into the general fund.
Well, if I can, as I stated in my letter, we have gotten organizations that have identified and recognized the increase in expectation and job requirements based on new laws that come down. I don't see any of these in any other industry that is demanding this type on a consistent basis and we're just asking during the presidential election. And this employee has no union representation, so I am representing her. And I see the work she does. We have done a phenomenal job executing elections in the largest township in the state. There are so many other communities that get criticized. We do not, because we do a great job under my leadership and under the hard work and her knowledge and how we manage things in this township. We are very lean, and it's just, we do a lot of overtime work to make sure the elections are executed. And I think when you work, you should be compensated for that. And so.
Okay. I agree, you do a lot of work, you do a great job, your staff does a great job, but I think there's one position that you have had trouble filling, that people keep leaving, like 6 of them, that if you filled that, you would not need all this extra overtime. So I think that becomes your problem and her problem to fill that position. I think if we were to authorize what she's asking for tonight, we're authorizing every department head to come back and ask for money for themselves and for their employees.
So you're saying a vacant position is something that needs to be filled?
Oh, yes.
So, okay.
I do.
So that Ms. Irvine won't have to work those hours. However, what do you do when the statewide and presidential election years aren't there? You still have this continual employee doing what? Where she's already doing it. So you'd rather hire someone else, have to pay benefits, have to pay other wages, than to compensate the person who's already in the trenches and doing a job? I'm just asking.
I don't defend what she does or doesn't do. I know that there's a person who should be sitting there who's not there now. And there have been 6 different people who have come and gone.
That's because that workload, I've been in that office and I volunteered, and my son has worked in that office, and so has my daughter at some point, to help. And I did disclose that, just so you know, to help. And the one thing about it is that it is a heavy workload. So to get someone in that seat, and then, again, what will they be doing on the off years?
That's what the department head takes care of, not me. I only have 3 people in my office. So we have a motion on the floor and a support. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Trustee Matuzak?
No.
Trustee Keys?
No.
Supervisor Cannon?
No.
Trustee Kress?
No.
Treasurer Gilliam?
No.
Motion fails.
Thank you.
Sorry.
We have
Public comment?
public comments. Sam Bichelle?
It is past time for the board to update the citizens on the officer convicted of misuse of the state lien system. We were told more information would be made available public after the case was settled. Conviction in hand, whose information was pulled? What connection was this to a potential domestic terrorism cited? When the new flock cameras and computer system were purchased, it was clear it is not regulated by the state. So we really need trust in our local officials' honesty and integrity. And I think that that's where we need an update on exactly what happened. And in every other case I've seen of the lien system being misused, the person's information being pulled always came up. And it's with, a lot of times it's a woman who's basically fleeing from an abuser. What is, in this case, what was it that made it have a potential for domestic terrorism? I think that the board needs to update the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the only public comment this evening. So a motion to go into closed session. We will be coming back out is in order.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Call the meeting of the Township Board back to order. Mr. Dolan, you have 2 items that we're coming back for to vote on this evening. Number 1 is Kroger.
Yes, and at this time, it's my recommendation that the board adopt a motion to accept and settle the case of Clinton Township versus Kroger as recommended by National Council. That we will be part of a gross settlement of $1.2 billion, and we will be allocated under the percentages that were used by the state on the earlier settlements.
Thank you. Is
I
there
make a motion.
Thank you.
Board.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. You have another item that you're
Yes,
coming out with OOC Sign Company?
Yes, I do. And the first thing I'd like to do on that matter is to amend our agenda so that I can add, in conjunction with that lawsuit, to our agenda the adoption of a resolution establishing a 90-day moratorium on sign permits as presented, and also as a second added agenda item, adoption of an emergency ordinance establishing a 90-day moratorium on sign permits as
So moved.
presented.
So move to amend the agenda.
Do we need two separate motions or one for
We're
both?
going to need one motion to amend the agenda, and then
Okay.
also we'll vote separate on
Okay,
each
one
of
motion
those.
to amend the agenda. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who
I
made
think
it.
Mr. Keys.
Mr. Keys and who else? All right, trustee Keys.
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Motion passes.
Okay, and then the first amended agenda item will be to establish a 90-day moratorium on sign permits in the manner as presented in the resolution.
Motion for approval.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Motion passes.
Mr. Dolan?
Okay, the second item would be to adopt as an emergency ordinance of the township a 90-day moratorium on sign permits in the manner of the ordinance as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan.
Motion to
Seeing as
adjourn?
how all items are taken care of this evening, we have a motion to adjourn in order.
Oh, yeah.
Support from Mr. Gilliam.
I'll support it.
Roll call,
Well,
please.
no, because I already said it.
Well, you
Trustee
put your
Patton.
hand up.
Trustee
No, I
Patton?
know, I said so moved. and then
Trustee
you said so
Patton?
moved, so I'm like.
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
No, I'm having too much fun.
I'm gonna put no. Clerk Melcher, yes. Motion passes.
Okay, meeting adjourned.